Jennie Joseph presents The Hands That Caught Us, a legacy podcast series with our midwife elders, an archival offering through the Perinatal Pause Podcast with Jennie Joseph, where we rest, reclaim, and remember one story at a time. Welcome to The Hands That Caught Us, a sacred series within the Perinatal Pause Podcast with Jennie Joseph. In each episode, we sit in reverence with our elder midwives, keepers of ancestral knowledge, community healers, and witnesses to the sacred continuum of life. These conversations are a pause, a restoration, and a reclaiming of our birthright. These are the stories that built us, and these are the stories that sustain us.
I'm so happy. I am beyond happy to have this opportunity to have our beautiful Queen Mother, Shafia Monroe, elder midwife, sister friend, my beloved. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming on.
I love the sister friend, like all things that you said, like, oh, we're friends, we're sister friends. That's so moving. I love it. That's right. Soul sister midwives. Hey.
Right?
That's right. That term.
We've known each other a long time.
Well, Nia's 27, my youngest, and we met when she was 2. So at least it's been
25 years.
35?
Yeah, 25.
25. Yes. Long time.
Right? I came out to Portland.
Got our first
Black midwives.
That's right. He's all young and he's still cute.
Stars in my eyes.
Right. We're all excited about you. And you got, I don't know how I even heard about you, but you got an award, you came, we're excited. We've been rolling together ever since. So I so appreciate your work and I look up to you and admire you and you're such a trailblazer and a no-nonsense British Black midwife. I love it.
Well, same for you. I don't think I'll find the words today to really cover the vast breadth and depth and the legacy that you have created for us Black midwives in the United States. I'm going to see if we can go all the way back, Shafia. Let's go way, 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 way back. When and how did midwifery hit you for the very first time?
I love the story. I'm trying to get the same story. I think when you are a healer, we talked about being a healer. When you're a healer, it's different than being a midwife. So I was born a healer, literally. I know that I was because ever since I was little, I always wanted to take care of sick animals. I loved elders. We talk about 8 years old, hanging with someone who's 60 years old, going to Miss Perryman, was her name. She was blind, and because I like dogs, she had a seeing eye dog. I would go see her and visit her. She brought me to her conference of the blind that she taught me how to read Braille. But I just wanted to help her. So I've always wanted to help people and help anything that I felt needed help. I'm a very sensitive person. So I used to cry when Lassie got lost on TV. My sibling would just laugh. I'm like, oh, he's lost. I was so emotional. And I remember, going play. It's almost like when you watch those movies and someone walks by you and someone picks up energy. I'm that kind of person, particularly when it comes to children in pain. I almost want to close my eyes sometimes. When I go through stores, I can actually see children who aren't being treated well. And just I can tell. I know that something's wrong. To a point that one time I was in the movies with my daughter, and I did see something that no word, but the little child was acting different. And I saw what was going on. I had to call the police, and they thanked me. There was something going on. And I'm in a line of adults, Jennie. We're all in the same lines, but no one either didn't want to see it or they didn't realize it. So I have this sensitivity, which really comes from healing, which makes me a great midwife because midwives are healers. So I'm able to be sensitive to a mother's needs when I see her without having to ask. And we all have it. We're all born with it. Some of us claim it early, some claim it late, some we call it motherwit or intuition or spirituality. But so it started when I was little. I was born to be a healer. And then when my mother died when I was 15, I moved to another home and the woman was pregnant there and she was 36, I was 16. And I was just like totally enthralled by her. I had never seen, I had a niece. My sister got pregnant when she was 16 or 17. So we had a baby and that kind of thing. But I wasn't really around my sister a lot because she wasn't staying with us. But to be in the same house with this pregnant lady, like, man, I was just like lit up. I just like loved her. I kept bringing her food. I was touching her. She was so nice. She put up with all my questions. She gave me a book called Emergency Childbirth for fathers, for husbands. I might have said, way back then by Dr. Williams, obstetric book, little small pamphlet. And I read that book. So if something happened, I'm 16, that something happened, I would know what to do. And then one day when I woke up, she was home with the baby. I'm like, how did I not get called? This is even before there was home birth or, it wasn't even allowed in the room, but I just felt like so surprised she had the baby. But what I did see, I remember her open the door one day it was a crack. I was walking by and I saw her half dressed, just the underarm with the sanitary napkin back then, the belt and her breast and the dark areola and the wrinkly uterus. And she still looked pregnant. Like, that's so pretty. I thought that was so gorgeous seeing a postpartum body. And we don't think that, it all just seems so normal to me. And so I just had that normalcy. And so not everyone could see a postpartum body, a postpartum woman, early. We're always shocked. Oh, you still look pregnant. Oh, your stomach's dark. Your stomach's wrinkled. Oh, when's it going to go away? It's like, oh my God, she's just so beautiful. I just thought it was amazing.
I swear, when I've spoken to some of the other elders, or, we speak to other midwives all the time, and each of our stories, they have this element of just um, this complete embodiment of the whole thing. Like, it's not just a process that's happening in front of you, but you just
Right.
sort of engage in a way that you almost become one with the experience.
Yes, yeah, you're just like you're a thing, kind of.
Yeah.
Because you're this energy force. It's like, it's like Billy Avery said at our conference. I don't know if you made that one, because you're a midwife, you're special. You have that crown, you have that star on your crown. Everybody doesn't, and she said, everyone doesn't get to have that. That midwives are special, not so much because we leave the house any time of day and night, but because we have this gift that we are one with nature, one with light. I don't know, one with this special force of creation. Something special. I love it.
Me too. And the calling that comes with that is undeniable, isn't it? Like, you cannot not answer that call.
Right, right, right. Now, my journey to become a midwife wasn't easy. So, I'm 16, I'm all enthralled, but like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Not only that, when my mother did die at 15, they didn't have counseling back then. So when she passed away, I didn't go back to school. No one said, my dad might have said, go back to school. I don't remember. It was just all a fog. But I didn't go back to school. So I went home. I left home at 15, went back home when I was 17. Today, I'm going to go to Africa. And I'm going to help save babies, something like that. He said, well, you need to first get an education. You need to go to school. He's very old school, very matter of fact, like, get your butt back to school. So I went and got my GED in 6 weeks, put myself at the University of Massachusetts. But what was so good about that time, Jenny, is it's a time when we were talking about Ina May Gaskin recently, but the time when the white American home birth movement was coming back into the country, they were bringing awareness that Black people had been midwives. Like, we didn't know because once they ostracized the Black midwife in the 50s, and I'm born, I don't give my age, a little bit after that. We didn't have recollection of it because it ended so late for us. For white America, their midwifery was ostracized in the United States like in the 20s, really early. But ours was able to go to late to the 50s. So we didn't really know that it was there. So when I found out there were Black midwives and that my dad himself was born at home, again, I claim Alabama as my second home because I grew up there. My dad brought us every single year. We rode horses, we have property. So, and here are all these houses. Everyone's like Miss Mamie Lee, Miss Smith, Miss Sally Mae, Miss Valeria. We knew all of them and Auntie. And you run by their house, they give you watermelon, a tell you to drink some water, tell you to stop what you're doing. Then you find out that later in life that 1/3 were Black midwives. All of them had home births.
Right?
All had 8 babies, and no one ever said a word to me about it. Nothing. I'm in the mecca of the heaven of Black midwife, and no one said anything because my dad said because it wasn't a big deal. We didn't.
That's right. It was normal.
It was normal. Like what's
Just
what's
every
the big
day.
deal? Yeah, every day. So I said, oh, so yeah.
Shafia, do you know, are there any midwives in your family, in your line, in your ancestral line?
I don't know any. I did find out that my grandmother, who died at 101, used to help the midwife. And very interesting, I said to her grandma, like, what would you tell me for advice as a midwife? You know what she told me? She said, make sure the baby's alive before the doctor leaves. That was like so compelling. Make sure the baby is alive. Because I think what happened back then, which I read about, the doctors would do the birth, the baby didn't make it, they would leave, and that death be on that black midwife's um, on her log of having lost the baby. And so I just thought that was like, who would say that?
You know,
But
you think about the history of the black midwife in America, at least, right? The African midwife during enslavement, the way midwifery was moved through generations, same way it
right,
has been for millennia. It wasn't anything new, but in the
right,
American context, right?
right,
They were the keepers of this knowledge, this the all aspects of midwifery, including the competencies. And the
right,
fact that midwifery made it through slavery, enslavement, and came out the other end, and through Jim Crow, I mean, all of these
right,
political and social horrors that
right,
was America for centuries,
right.
midwifery prevailed anyway.
That's right. And thank God it did. That's why he entered the civil rights movement.
Yes,
So Martin Luther King was born at home. I think a doctor came to the house, but he was a home birth baby. I
I
don't know if
didn't
his
know that.
kids were born at home. Yeah, he was born at home. His house is still there. It's a landmark in Atlanta.
The
Yeah.
thing about how, in the face of adversity, and this
Hmm.
again is historical, this is, again, from the Bible, from other, old texts and tomes, we know that the midwives were the center of the community, but also that the midwives were chosen by the community. I mean,
Exactly.
you gave us an opportunity as you developed these different programs that you created, the community-based programs, bringing together the sisters. You helped us to find a way to have a system that we could use to prevail in our times. I mean, we're still
Right.
here. As I'm
Right.
going through having these conversations with elder Black midwives, I'm just really present to, we made it. Like,
Yes, we did
it
make it.
wasn't easy.
No, no. And it's
I mean,
still
can
not
you share?
easy.
Hmm.
We're doing it, but I don't think we're still, what you have to go to get what you have to get, where others who look different are just, they have the privilege or they have the family money. I remember talking to a meeting where, oh yeah, my mom's gonna go donate $15,000, literally at one of the midwife meetings. Like, wow. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
Talk about when you first, when you got into actual practice. So, well, how did you train? Did you self-taught? Tell us more about you became the 16-year-old young woman with a clear, oh, I'm cool. This is for me.
right.
Where did you go from there? How did it move from there?
Well, after my dad told me to go to school and I went to college, at the same time, I told my uncle that I wanted to be an obstetrician, but I
Mm,
still didn't know midwife was a big thing then. He told me, now granted, my dad's born at home in Alabama by a midwife. He didn't say be a midwife. He was fine with me being a doctor. But my uncle said, have you thought about being a midwife? And I said, what's that? Because remember, I read women obstetrics emergency childbirth for the father. So it
yeah.
wasn't by a midwife. So when I looked it up, and I don't know, Jenny, I can't remember, but somehow I must have read about the Black granny midwife, and I was enthralled. This woman who
Yeah.
walked around that night, who was called by God, who prays, like she's just so mystical and wonderful. I know now they were human, they had issues, and they suffered and all that, but the book they just had like they were so elevated. So I want to be like her. That was my mentor, that was my model, and she still is. I still try to be like her. Here's a person who seemed to be very giving, very kind, very patient. They said use humor, be sensitive, baby the
Mhm.
mother. She talked to the father, she talked to the teens. If you didn't want your baby, she brought it home and kept it and raised it. I mean, how many people, some people had 4 or 5 kids, none were this. Like it's my 15th, my 12th, whatever. I don't want it. Take it. And she would take it, bring them food. So I just wanted to emulate that. And I think that lifestyle, so that's what I wanted to do. How did I get to do it? It was a while. I stood on top of the UMass campus outside, literally just standing outside. And every time a Black person walked by, I would say, excuse me, are you a midwife? That's all I knew what to do. And eventually I know they're looking like someone's crazy.
Right.
I'm now 17 doing this, right? And this a woman from the Congo, I remember, I don't know if she was from, I remember, I was like, oh my God, you have to train me. She's like, I said, I have to be a midwife because babies are dying in Roxbury and I have to be a midwife. So she was a nurse midwife, and I didn't know what she was talking about. She brought me to her house a few times. She gave me like a textbook. And I haven't took my biology yet or my chemistry or anything. I just want to do this. And I'm like, effacement survey, I could not get it. So I stopped going. Then we had the Master Midwives Alliance of Massachusetts, where predominantly white midwives. I was the only Black person there, the only teenager, the only.
What time frame are we talking? What years?
I had no babies yet, and I had my first child in 1976. So before 1976, I was
Okay.
going to those meetings with the called now the MMA, and they were nice and kind. But again, I'm in a city, Black teen going out to a suburb with adult
Yeah.
women. So it was nice enough, but I stopped going to that too. In the meantime, I had to bring up the name of Ayana a day and
Actor?
not Makata, but Ayana and Rashida
Uh-huh.
and a few others. So they were also meeting. So then I'm going to all these different things. I'm reading books, but then I get a job as a nurse's aide at Boston City Hospital, and I was able to be put in the nursery. I couldn't get to the labor room, so I know a lot about babies. I cut off digits and I watched the circumcision and the weight gain and all the vitals. I'm really good with that, and I finally got to see a birth. So then now I'm from 17, all these different pieces, still learning. I get had my baby with a male white doctor because I couldn't find a Black midwife in Roxbury. And the doctor says to me later at a home visit that, I have another Black that have her baby at home. And that's how I met Majida and Madadi, who was from Alabama, whose mother was a midwife also. And so we started doing births together. A little before her, I found some other midwives from Alabama. So I had two elder midwives worked me to help me with my midwifery. And then I met Majida, and we just carried it forward and created the first Black nonprofit in the nation. And there was other Black, if you look at my Black midwife timeline, there's other midwife groups happening, but what made us stand out, we became a nonprofit. So once you become a nonprofit, you're in the system, so people could find us. So it wasn't just grassroots in our home. You couldn't find it. You look it up, and so that's how we got so much recognition. We're in the Double Dutch book and some other books. They came and did studies on us and wrote about it. We just rented the first floor of an apartment in Jamaica Plain, and we did prenatal care in those rooms. We made home visits. We did childbirth classes. We ran around the night. We took anybody. We didn't know anything then. You could be past your due date, water broke. If you want to know, yeah, we'll be there. And that's what we did. And we just had a ball. I tell the young women today, I'm just so blessed. All of my teachers were all Black women, one from Pakistan, one from Morocco. I had all African American, Black women. So it was never any, no drama. It was never negative, none of that. We split the money. Even though someone might know more than one, it was always 50-50. It was never a less than, if you made 100, you got 50. Made 500, we always split it. We always went for coffee after the birth. And we sit around without birth. How girl, we say, oh my God, it's laughing and talk about the birth. And we go home and who's gonna do the visit. So it was just great. I did, yeah. So that's how I learned. And I eventually took the test for the Massachusetts Midwives Alliance. So I am technically a certified, their thing back there in 1981. I took it to 1981, I think it was. 19, yeah. I took the test then, and I'm considered, according to them, a certified independent midwife. So, that was named it back then. Before this was
Massachusetts Midwifery.
Yeah, Massachusetts Midwives Alliance certification. Yeah.
Look at that.
They still exist.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but I graduated in 1981 as well in London. And so I went that direct entry route to a hospital, which was the first of the pilot program.
Nice.
Look at that. So on two different sides of the ocean, the Atlantic, here we are.
But what caused you? What made you want to be a midwife?
Oh, I just knew. I was like maybe 10 years old when it hit, and I was like, oh yeah. I didn't even really know what it was, but it was clear. And I waited. I couldn't get in until I was 19 years old to do it. And I just
suffered.
Yeah. And then the rest is history. I've not done anything since my entire life, right? Just like you, right?
Yeah.
Like this is who I've been.
It's real. We can't even get away from it.
Yeah.
And every time someone says, if I haven't done a birth, last birth I did was 2 years ago. I probably do one birth a year. And I want to go back to like maybe 3 or 4 a year in my neighborhood. I really want that community birth theory where every 10 blocks there's a midwife, because I can walk 10 blocks. I don't want to drive at night. I don't want to do an hour drive somewhere. And I think the part that I like, what I see more about what the Black midwives did, I like that it was holistic. And so when they did the birth, they also did a lot of aftercare. And if you don't live close to somebody, you're not seeing them every other day because it's just too far. You're gonna see them once a week and do a lot of phone calling. So I like to be able to go by a new mom's house,
Yes.
almost every day and sit, bring food, observe, hold the baby, just help them out. Especially if they don't have a mom who can be there. Which is why I named the book Mother to Mother. We need
Well,
that
and
love.
let's talk a little bit about the book, because what you've done with this book is brought something forward that needed to come into the public view again. Share about your
Mhm.
book.
My book, so I am a cultural historian. I grew up with the civil rights movement. So I'm all about pro-black. It's just in me. My parents were political, so I'm going around, as I tell the story to many people, Jenny, I'm going around the country and God bless everybody. I love all people. But I'm always hearing about another culture's postpartum care, whether it's, mother roasting or Ayurvedic or Chinese medicine and just but I never heard about the African American postpartum care in depth. And so I have spent the last some years just reading, and I wish you could see my floor. It just has every single book. And what's so interesting, you all, the book is called Mother to Mother, African American Postpartum Care, Traditions, Recipes, and Healing. But when I did look at all the recipes, if I'm like, what did Black people eat during after the baby was born? Uh, in these recipes books, by Black people, there's so much information on postpartum care. This one sentence, was one woman, she wasn't allowed to eat cabbage or pork. And listen to the book, I think it's called The Storm by our beloved Gladys Milton. She has a section about, what they would come over and how they would help mothers. So it's just because it's not a book, it's like a sentence here and there. So I want to put all those sentences and small, short
Mm,
paragraphs into one book that we can look and now actually have a book to say, whether you do it or not, this has been documented. We have a culture, the things that we did historically. And what's so exciting about the book, Gender, it goes all the way back to Africa. I went all the way back to Africa on the foods where they did cook in one pot, tons of vegetables, zucchini leaves, pumpkin leaves. We are a green eating
yes.
people by nature. And I'm reading Kunta Kente's book, Alex Haley, Roots, which I've had for years, just haven't picked it up. What do I open up to? Kizzy's his daughter, true story.
That's right.
But when the baby's born, the part that stuck me, so when the baby's born, because he was 17 when he was captured, so he remembers a lot. And so he said that after the baby's born, two older women came in. One had a big bowl of hot water with rags, the other one had soup. He said he remembers, in the Gambia, when women had babies, they would take them to the water to wash the blood off with a calabash. He said he doesn't know what was in it. So even that we're still, like you said, we're still, the lineage is still there. I just want to be able to let people know that we have a culture. We come from some, whether we claim it, there is a story, there is a link, there's a rope that we can look back and say, wow, why did my grandmother always want to have okra, this wet okra after dinner, when the baby born? Because we ate okra, comes from Africa, and so
Yes.
it's our food. Why do we like watermelon so much? Because it comes from Africa. We're familiar with it, so the book has tradition. It has a lot of things about anemia, because that's a real big thing for me. So I did a lot of things on what do we do
Yes.
historically as Black people to prevent anemia. So you can look, there's a whole section. What has iron? How much iron do we need? Why do we need? What does it do? To, if you don't have a family, how can you take care of yourself? Which is difficult because it's called
Yes.
mother. But a grandma can read this book to take care of her daughter, because people say to me, I want to help my son or daughter, but I don't know what to do. Because we,
Right.
we lost that culture, right? We went to
That's
the
right.
hospital and you
Yes.
came home with your milk dried up in a bottle and go back to work, and we didn't know what to do. So
Yeah.
we're relearning. So the book is relearning, reteaching. So I'm just like loving it. And so I can't wait.
I'm so
January
excited.
27th, 2026. Yes, I can't wait.
It's coming. I think it's such an important piece. We have been in that stage of missing not only the historical and the ancestral knowledge, but also what that also did in terms of our healing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we look at perinatal morbidity and
Yes.
mortality, harms, disability, long-term illnesses, chronic illnesses, and ultimately death as well around birthing, perinatal around birthing. And we noticed that, for the longest time, we totally ignored the postpartum, but yet now we know
Right.
the
Right.
majority of the outcomes that are bad and, even deaths happen in the very postpartum. What has always
Right.
struck me about this country on there's so many levels. Obviously, there's so many areas of just complete. Whew. But the
Thank
one
you.
thing as a midwife, I arrived as a midwife. I'd been a midwife 10 years when I got here. The one thing that really stuck in my mind was, how are you going to throw someone out of a hospital 2 days after vaginal birth, even 2 days after a C-section,
Right,
and not have a single solitary provision for the rest of that perinatal recovery, that
right.
postpartum period? It blows my mind to this day that that's still acceptable from a human rights place.
Right, right, exactly. And even though we have the Medicaid reimbursement, where which is great, you can, well, we know that a lot of women never get care without being pregnant, and they cut it off at 6 weeks, and now they have a whole year. But that's not African American postpartum care, because there's no
No.
hands-on. No one's rubbing you, no one's loving you. If the oxytocin creates contraction to get the baby out, well, oxytocin creates contraction to prevent hemorrhaging. So where is the love that makes her uterus stay contract along with the baby? And when in my research too, it said that women who have the most support tend to have less postpartum depression. And I'm seeing
Right.
so much on Facebook and on social media, but I've never heard such sadness by women, all
Yeah.
women, that this is so hard. Everything is like we're selling motherhood as this horrible experience, as opposed to my book's about celebrating Black motherhood, where you can see the thing over here where every African artifact that we have show the reverence for Black women. Black art is
Yes.
pregnant women, it's big breasts, it's babies on the back, it's whole. We love children, we love motherhood, and we're in a society that does not honor motherhood. It really doesn't.
That's right.
We
I
forget, we
mean,
wouldn't
I
be dying
think
like we're doing and feeling so depressed about all this.
all of these things, when you put them all together, you realize that none of this is by accident, and
For
all
sure.
of this is it's perpetuated because of the structural and historical inbuilt ways of being that keep it so.
Right, right,
You know,
right,
once they managed to eradicate midwives, particularly Black midwives, Indigenous midwives, immigrant midwives, once they were
right,
moved out and the system was simply get yourself to the hospital
right.
and
Don't ask
figure it
any
out,
questions.
right?
Just do what they do. Get on your
Do,
back and be quiet.
Mhm.
We'll take
And
over.
those what look like sociological or historical ways of being impacted the physiology.
Oh, it
As
does. It does. It
described.
does.
Hmm.
And the mind.
Yes.
Not just but the few, because that is part of it. And I think one thing that when I was an active midwife in Roxbury, one thing we definitely did was let Black women know that they were safe and they felt safe. We're already having teaching hospitals, they're already having bad stories. They were so glad to have Black women come to the house and say, the historical aspect, this is what we used to do. You're capable. Of course, we did blood work and we did prenatal care. They had to fit the criteria. We weren't just running, willy nilly. We did have a system, but they've
Yeah.
met that profile. They're like, this is amazing. And my point is that when you offer quality, loving prenatal care, not just clinical, but quality, loving prenatal care, and that's the Black midwives. They actually love the women because they women look like them. And when I
That's
remember
right.
my uh, son's friends, he was arrested by the cops, him and a white friend together. They told him to shut up. And they said to the white boy, son, you need to calm down. Very different. Son, you need to calm down. You need to shut up, because that cop saw that young white man as a son. And we as Black midwives see these women as our daughters, as our
That's
sisters.
right.
So not that we all, love is universal. Love should have no color. But on the real side, when I see a Black woman, I see myself. And so besides the cultural part, they got all that. And that's also part of the spirituality and the physiology of prenatal care, that was creating that where the mother can relax. She's not on defensive, sitting in that chair with the white jacket. Does this person like me? What are they
That's right.
thinking about me? And I think that's such an important part with Black midwives bring, not just the family, bring to the community. And the other thing I like really about when I read about the Black midwives is in my book, that they were pillars in their community. Like, we looked at Jennie
Yes.
Joseph and they're like, what should we do, Jennie? You know, I don't got no water in my house, or my grits ain't working right, or how do I make Johnny want to do his ABCs? That we're elders and they come to us for that advice. You can't find your midwife in the clinic. You can't go find her, but when you're a community midwife, people can always have access to you. And we have
That's
that
right.
long-term healing. It doesn't end at 9 months. I still talk to
Yes.
moms, their babies are 30 years old and they're still
That's
like,
right.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. You're always part of the family. And that's the part that I just love and so grateful for that. I can still, you may not see them, but when you do, it's like, and here's my fun thing I do. Love is every time I see someone who I caught, they might as one brought to somebody who's 40 something. I always give him a dollar to the education. I just want to give you, he cracked that. So I'm gonna give you a dollar. So I gave him a dollar. He took it, looked at me, like gave me a hug. I love to give them a dollar for their education. That was my little thing. 'Cause they were little back then. Maybe five, I
Right.
give them a dollar, but now they're 40, still give them a dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are the traditions.
Right.
Shafia, were there moments when you had to pause? I mean, I named this podcast the Perinatal Pause because I feel like sometimes we're just going at such a pace. We have to stop a
Yeah.
minute. I mean,
Yes.
did you find that you had to stop to grieve or to gather yourself or to heal before you could go on? Because you've done so much in this movement.
I feel like I'm pausing now, and I have
Mm,
to say reluctantly. I go back and forth. I'm like, why? I feel guilty, and I hear people like Salam and they're still Saran, they're still doing births. They're my age, and they're still out there doing it. But not to tell myself, Shafia, you birthed the movement, and that's what you had to sacrifice going to the women's home to support and elevate Black midwives in the United States. My goal was to create something that we could have that our daughters could have later. So in the process, I wasn't able to be a hands-on midwife the way I wanted to. You just can't do both. Either you're an
right.
organizer or you just all you doing, you're catching babies and doing that work. So I
Mhm.
do pray that somewhere along the line there'll be somebody in my neighborhood in walking distance that I can go help catch their baby and provide them with the granny midwife postpartum experience.
Yeah, I mean, what about the students? What about these young ones that here they come, stars in their eyes. They're going to be this midwife is just going to save the world. And what can we tell them? What should we be telling them? How do we support them as well as keep them in reality?
Well, there's a lot of things out there where I did a talk to the other day, and they're saying like that question, the newer generation who are much more. I'm from the self-sacrificing generation. I'm from the generation that Black women don't complain and of the Black woman strong syndrome. And I actually own that and wear that. And I'm okay with that. I
Mm,
know now that people say don't forget with that Black woman's what's it called? The Black woman syndrome, strong syndrome. It's not good for us,
yeah, the
but it was good for
superwoman
me.
schema.
If I didn't do it, there'd be no ICTC, there'd be no SMC do it. That kept me functioning. So now that I am older, my oldest would be 50 this May, this August. So I'm up there. So now I am taking naps. I never took a nap. Also, I'm a crazy Gemini, you all. I have a lot of energy, like you, Jenny. It was like some people just born like I don't need a lot of rest, but now I do, and I'm honoring. I'm
Me
doing my
too.
garden. I'm not cooking for my family anymore. Like, where are you? Because I'm not cooking. Get out of you, adult kids. Go find something to eat. I cook when I want. I lay down. I watch my little what you call it YouTubes on my phone for a minute. So I did feel like and I wrote a book, and that was too. It
Yes,
took 5 years. I look back. It was 2020 when I started writing that book. 2020. I can't believe it. Five
but you
years
finished
later.
it.
I did finish it. I did
That's
finish it.
the key.
So for the younger generation, I'm gonna say, you know what? Do what works for you. You don't have to follow. If someone needs a lot of rest, they want to do bursts 4 times a month, that's okay. If you have the energy, you want to go, back to back and you can do a good job, that's okay. Listen to your own body. Don't feel pressured to prove anything. Your job is to honor yourself, honor the creator, and honor things that you serve. And I'd rather have one mom and like give her the world and rest if I need to do
Yes,
that now, and then have a lot of moms like, okay, I'll see you in 2 days and just check if something's wrong. That's really not good midwifery care, in my opinion. Midwifery care
yeah.
to me is being in the presence, in the physical presence. So drink a lot of water, make love often, laugh and play, watch comedy, don't watch the news, and just know that you are being divinely guided. So my mantra is I'm going to share that you are divinely guided, you're truly blessed, we are living our success right now. And that's I stay in that mantra.
Exactly, exactly. Talk a little bit about family because I know your husband has been a rock. I know your
Oh my
children have
gosh,
been.
yes.
I mean, I don't know if we can do stuff like this without family, without that support.
And it's so funny because I've heard, in the past, a few midwives of old say, they got divorced because of their husband. So I had been married before, but
Mhm.
my previous husband was also supportive of midwifery. And my other husband, who I
Mhm.
have right now, I've been married to for 23 years, my husband, he's also been supportive. So I
Wow.
would tell young women, and young men, as I tell my children, when you pick a mate, run everything by them. I want to be a midwife one day. If you're not, I want to be a midwife one day. I'm a midwife, I'm in midwifery school, or I am a midwife. And that means that sometimes I have to just jump off the bed and just leave you hanging and go to these births. Like, are you going to be okay with that? Do you know what that means? It might be 2 or 3 days. And make sure that you've talked about it so you don't wind up getting resentment. I also think
Yeah.
I tell people for my family, midwifery was always a family obligation. It was never mine. I gave it to my family. That's why my kids are so involved. They think they're midwives in their hearts. So they're all
Yeah.
midwives. Yeah. They're like anything about midwife, they show up, they help out, they talk to pregnant people. Because you have to tell your children that I told them that what we're doing together. I said, by the sake of, we are saving lives. I raised like that. We're helping people have babies that are going to live. We're helping mothers and we're helping fathers. It was never like mommy's leaving for a job. I never apologized. I was like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I got to go to a birth. I'm so sorry. Then they get me, like, well, what are you sorry about? I'm not sorry. I'm doing God's work and you're helping. They would carry my tank out. They would come open the door. They did something to feel included. And then when the birth is over and I'm rested, we celebrated. We went to, back then it was Chunky Cheese, or we went out and had, ice cream, or we played. I would go and
Yes.
physically play on the floor. So, oh yeah, when mom comes back, we're gonna have more fun. So I would give in to them because I was gone for
Yes.
so long. And I was an active midwife. Like, I was on a roll. I was doing births like 4 and 5, 6 births a month. And even with one time, I didn't know any better. My book says, of course, stay home. We weren't taught to stay home. So my baby, I think it's like 7 days, and I went to go do a birth because the person needed me. And I had the baby in her bassinet, my baby. And then the other wife came to help. I said, oh, the baby's like, no, that's my baby. So just being on my feet so soon, just baby
7
on my
days
back.
postpartum.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know to stay home because, like I said, we didn't have the book out and we weren't talking about stay home. I didn't have a mom, so I'm sure she would have said, "Get your butt home." But there's no one to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So I just kept rolling. But I have no regrets. If I could do it all over again, I would do exactly the way that I did it.
Yes.
Yeah, I would
Yes.
do it the same way. Yeah, but let your kids know that they're part of the solution. Make it a family responsibility. It's not a choice. We're all here on the earth to make a better world. And so we're all here to make a better
Exactly.
world. And this is how we're going to do. We're going to help save a baby, one baby at a time. None of them are midwives. They don't want to be midwives, but they are definitely spiritual midwives. You say it, they know the whole history. They know what my daughter's so cute. She's 25 at a nurse. She's working a daycare. So mom, she called me up. I'm really concerned that my coworker might have preeclampsia. Who knows that at 25 years old? So her
That's
ankles
right.
are swollen. I'm concerned. What'd you tell her, Nia? So I told her she to call her exactly. I'll go to the hospital right now. But the fact that they know that, they're raising that, and that is public health.
That's
Everyone should
right.
know. Everybody should know that a woman next to you, fingers and face big, is not a good sign. We should know that. We should know she has a cramp in her stomach consistently. It could be premature labor. This information should not be only for midwives and doctors. This is family information. So
That's
if
right.
we're
Community.
gonna help reduce this issue, but now we're all aware. So
That's
yeah,
right. That's right. Um, okay, well, let's go full circle. We met in the early or mid 2000s. You began a movement of conferences based
yes.
around your organization. We've got to get that story out. Tell us about the birth, the life, and the final closing of the International Center for Traditional Childbearing.
Yes. So we used to meet in Roxbury under the traditional childbearing. So Ayana, Afua, Umsalama, the parts where we would meet and squeeze my little office back in Jamaica Play and do stuff. And Ina May would come. She was so shocked to find these Black midwives organized. But again, I have to give credit to who shows I stand on. It was the CPAD, Child Provider African Descent, that, I'm a young midwife. They were meeting around the country, New York, Jamaica. I'm following Ayana around, which, by the way, I have the Ayana Day Black Midwife award in her honor. So, but then she stopped doing CPAD. And so there were no more conferences. And I moved to Oregon and I called us, I want us to continue with this movement. I don't want it to stop. It's been like 5 years. She had a newsletter going, she had all the stuff doing on her credit card by herself. And just, so that's why I created the nonprofit. So we get the funds come in. So then I said, we're going to, what names we give it? And we gave it the International Center. No, we gave the conference the Black Midwives and Healers Conference. We wanted to be healers
Yes.
because we wanted to include everybody. So now we go to my husband. I married my husband in, I don't know, 1991, I think. And I told him the midwife. He didn't say he didn't know what that meant. I didn't do anything. But he's like,
Mm.
what? I had no idea what I had got myself into. So he said, what can I help you do? I said, well, I wanted to put on the Black Midwife Conference. He said, okay, I'll help. So he and I met in the front with one other person on my street. And that's how we got the Black Midwife in Hills Conference Code. Then later, of course, I called all the Black midwives I knew, told them we're having a conference. Someone introduced me to a professor at University of Portland. So we had our first conference at University of Portland. And I think maybe 75 people showed up.
It was big.
They were okay, good. It was big. And it was fun. It was fun, big. We had food, and Billy Avery came and spoke for us. We had awards, and we had a party, and we just kept doing it every single year, and it got bigger and bigger. Then we started traveling around the country. And it was so important for Black midwives to have someplace to come that was really about them, about us. We became Jenna, we're lifelong friends. We're sister friends. We get these long-term relationships. You can call. We would call each other at night on the phone and say, "Hey, I got a mother who's been late for 15 hours, and this baby's not. Well, what should I do? Have you tried this? Have you tried that?" All kind of good advice, and we got CEUs, but mainly we had other organizations. Nothing against Midwives Alliance in North America or American College of Nurse Midwives. We go to those events. I go to all of them. I've been involved. I love them. They've been very charitable in their own way. But again, as I said, I come from my pro-Black background where it's called do for self. We needed our own still. We can visit. You can visit people, have your own house. Go visit, eat other places, but have your own food in your own home. We need to have our own. That was very important to my legacy of who shows I stand on. My mother, Harriet Tubman, the Black midwives who were meeting informally around the country who I didn't know about, trying to do the same thing. So I'm just blessed I was able to pull it together on a national level, by making an incorporation that people could find us. And you all were so great coming to speak. Everyone would come to speak. And it was a party. Wasn't it a party?
It was.
It was a party every year, you guys. It was structured, but it was still a party. You know how we roll with Black
fond memories. So deep. I mean, you're just never going to forget those experiences.
Right. But I have to bring up the National Black Midwives Alliance, because what we had, like Jennie, you all was our Florida rep, weren't you?
No, I don't know if I got that far. I don't remember.
We had a Florida rep. Somebody.
Maybe it was me.
I thought. I know Saran was the Georgia rep, and Nicole was the regional rep, and Tia was California. We had so many, but one thing, we had this young sister named Jamara Amani, who was the rep for something. Maybe she was a Florida rep.
She may have been the one. Yes.
Yes, she lives in Florida. And we had a meeting, and she came to the meeting at my house, and Salama came, and I think Nicole's on the phone. And I said, we need to have a separate arm, because we were having a lot of flack. People said, who cares? But we were getting a lot of flack that in the name International Center for Nutrition and Childbirth, it didn't have the word midwives in it. So I wanted to have a Black midwife organization that's like a standalone. And so she was charged to try to work on that. And it took her, I left ICTC, retired in 2017. Okay. I think 5 years later, her and the nurse midwife, Haggie, collaborated and created the National Black Midwives Alliance. So we now have a standalone 501c6 membership organization that can stand alone and really replicate Black midwives, represent the needs, and build capacity. And we need to have it. We have a right to have it, and we should have it, and it's going very well.
And it incorporates all midwives, right?
Right. That's the other thing. That was unique too about ICTC. We didn't care if it's a CNM, a grassroots, a lay midwife, whatever you call yourself. You said you was a baby catcher, or you was a midwife. We believed you, we respected you, and that's why it was so powerful. We all literally had no classes whatsoever. No one was, no little I's, no little U. So it was good.
It certainly
good old
was.
Days. I know. Doing this, when I look at that, you've seen it, right? Bringing the Spirit.
Yes.
So every time I see it, I cry, because now Ayana's not in it, Afu is not in it, now Kuleko's not there. We have all those people that we saw, and literally I said, one day I'm not going to be there anymore, and it will be a memory. And I think we need to continue to me, it's the best documentary. I know there's other ones coming out, but that one.
No, that is the classic.
It is. That's the word.
Classic.
It is.
Like
Nothing was.
All My Babies is the classic in its time.
That's different.
Black, Bringing in the Spirit is our
generation.
Yes, and it stands. It goes across time. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
That you're showing it to, everybody can resonate with that movie.
It's the history.
It's
historical. We're talking about coming from Africa. I learned, the Shepherd Towner Act.
Yeah.
16, 19 was the first enslaved person, and how many people
Yeah.
came, and what it says that we weren't just baby catchers, we were healers. We took care of the sick and the
That's right.
dying. We help people with marital problems. We help people with parenting problems. Midwives tell a young girl who's 16. I remember walking down the street. I love to do oral talks. I would walk down the street. I always wanted to know about Black midwives. I would stop people. I'm a Gemini. Excuse me. Hi, my name is Shafia. I'm a midwife. I'm trying to kind of get a little story. Were you born by a midwife? Oh, yeah, I was born by a midwife. You had a second? Can you tell me a story? And one person told me that what she remembered was when she came home from school, she would always go by and go visit her midwife. I thought, how sweet is that?
It's
Go by your
beautiful.
midwife's house and go in. She probably helped her homework, talked to her about what was going on in school. The other one said that her midwife pierced her ears. Another guy said whenever he was sick, his midwife always knew it. So it's just like it wasn't just about the baby; it was this continuation of love and healing, and
Yes.
forming of a family and community that made the Black midwife of that time so powerful. We can't do that now because gentrification. Like, there's only Black on my street, so and also our kids don't know it. We're in an era where people respected their elders. So, you want to go talk to somebody who was older because it meant knowledge. Like people say, if you go to Africa with gray hair, people throw their shoes at your feet in humility because that means wisdom. But here we all want to be, 21 forever. So we don't respect our elders anymore in the same kind of way. So that makes it different
Exactly.
too. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, beautiful elder midwife
Thank you. Thank you.
Shafia.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for pausing with us and sharing your sacred story. And may your hands and your heart and your history continue to guide us.
Thank you. And
This has
yours
been a
too.
moment. It
It
really has.
is. Thank you. I feel like I don't say enough. It's kind of like flat, but it's hard to express when you've done over 40 years of a certain kind of work, in an hour, So it's
Yes,
just,
it
yeah.
is. It's so hard. But,
Yeah,
I do, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful.
I am too. And thanks for asking me. Thanks for letting me have a chance to let people know that Black midwifery has never died. It was never gone. Here's a cute thing, as you said, we paused. There was a pause from 1950 to 1970, a short pause, because literally Ayana and the others went back, Linda Home, whoever, they all went back and they found those midwives and they brought it back. That's why I know about it.
That's
So
right.
that was a short little pause, and now we're back strong, and we'll never have a pause in that way. We'll never be unseen again. And I think
That's
that is,
right.
we will not
And
be
that,
unseen.
wow,
Right. And I think ICT
beautiful.
said, I will give the organization credit. We work very hard to uplift Black midwives in this country so we could see ourselves again and be proud of who we are and what we did and what we're doing. As a result, we have our first Black midwifery school. We got
Yes.
people doing apprenticeship. We have people challenging exams and really changing things. So I'm really proud of the next generation. I see them working hard. It's
Yes.
different for them. They don't have our story, and they need it because they're not happy with the trainings. They're not being trained in a way where it's love and fun, and education should be love. We want our kids to go to private schools, so it's a small classroom. You're feeling loved. You're not being yelled at. You're not being put down. We need
That's
to make
right.
sure that our teachers, midwives are feeling loved and protected and excited and like the work. So that's what I'm concerned about. I'm not
Well, I
hearing
think
stories.
sharing our stories is part of that work, and it's part of the reclaiming that we're doing. And
Right.
we know that we have to remember, we know we have to rest on the way. And definitely, this is why I came up with that name. I think it just came to me, Perinatal Pause, for the
Right.
podcast.
Yep.
And this series of the podcast is called The Hands That Caught Us. So
Oh,
again, thank you for joining me and spending
absolutely.
time.
Anytime.
I
Thank
love you.
you.
I
I love
love
you
you. I
more.
love you.
And we're going to say, I love being a midwife.
Midwife,
I'm
deep
in my
down in my heart. Oh my
love
gosh.
being a midwife. Deep
Deep
down in my
down in my
soul.
soul.
I said,
I
deep,
said
deep,
deep,
said
deep,
down,
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 down, deep
down in my
down in my
soul. Said
soul.
deep, deep,
Deep,
said
deep,
down,
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 deep down
deep
in my
down in my
soul.
soul.
Thank you, Billy Avery. So many people to thank for who we are, for what I
Yes.
do. Yep, she gave us that song. We've been singing it
Yeah.
now for 25 years
Yes.
around the world. Everyone sings that song. That is our Black National Midwife Anthem.
Sure is.
So
Shafia Monroe, thank you.
Thank you, Jennie Joseph, sister friend. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.